What's up, YouTube? I'm Forrest Locklear. Today we're going to talk about what God says about tithing right after this. And we're back. Most of us today know tithing is just something that the church uses to collect money. You know, is it actually real? Does it have some background to it? Any backbone at all? Well, today we're going to dive in a little bit about the origin of tithing, why it's called tithing, what tithing actually means, and what God says about it. The concept of tithing shows up over 800 times in the Bible. I'm going to give you just a handful of examples. A few Old Testament examples, a few New Testament examples, and then we're going to wrap it all together. Proverbs 3:9 says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine." This example shows two things: a commandment and a promise. The commandment comes in verse 9, "Honor the Lord with your wealth and the first fruits of all your produce," meaning give to God the first of all of your income. That's what it would mean today. The second part is the promise. Then the barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will be bursting with wine. The promise is when you honor God with your money, God will meet you with blessings in your life. In Matthew 23, Jesus is speaking about the Pharisees. During this time, tithing was evident. The Pharisees gave 10% of everything that they did in life. 10% of their money, their income, 10% of even the small herbs in their garden. All of it was given to the temple and given to God. However, Jesus didn't discourage this. Rather, Jesus demonstrates the importance of being faithful in all walks of life. Here, I'll read the verse to you. "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you tithe mint, dill, and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. These you ought to have done without neglecting the others." This shows that you can't have one without the other. You have to be faithful in all your practices. All faithful practices must be done together. Essentially, if you're going to tithe and tithe 10% of everything, just like these Pharisees did, which was a good thing. Jesus didn't discourage that. Jesus just encouraged that you couldn't have one without the other. You can't have the faithful practices without the tithing. You can't have the tithing without the faithful practices. Jesus says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So while this verse doesn't appear to be directly correlated with anything else that we've talked about so far, and it doesn't even say tithing or the word tithe in the verse or in the text, it really spoke to me when I first read this. I realized that the reason I wasn't giving my money away is because I had an issue right here. Instead of tithing to the church, I was giving my money to charities like Mercy Ministries, America Reads, things like that. Different charities and different other organizations and ministries because I didn't believe in where I was. And it took me some time to realize that. So maybe if you're struggling with that, maybe you're not sold on the ministry that you're in. You don't believe in what you guys are doing is really being helpful or really reaching the people that you need to reach. What I did when I was struggling with this is I took the time to just look for another local church. Clearly where I was, I wasn't sold on. Clearly where I wasn't giving back to. So I went and found somewhere else. Think about it. As people, all the time we make excuses when we don't want to do things. If we're being really honest with ourselves, the times that we make excuses about not doing something is basically to find a way out of doing it. And I think what I was doing at the time was trying to figure out a way to get out of tithing, trying to find something that said, hey, it's not real. But at the end of the day, I realized that, hey, it's an issue right here. It's an issue of my heart. I wasn't giving back to the churches just because it wasn't something that I believed in. Over time, that changed. I found a new church. It was a ministry that I really believed in. I got rooted in the church. I was sold on the ministry that we were doing. I could see the positive effects of the things that we were doing in the community, and I was willing to give at that point. So right now, if you're struggling with tithing, or you're watching this video and you're trying to find an answer about what tithing is, and you're not doing it, maybe it's because you're in the wrong place. Maybe you should find a church where you can get rooted in and you believe in. Or maybe if you don't tithe at the church that you're at now, maybe you should get more involved in the ministry. And once you get involved in something, you'll be more apt to give money to it because you'll be making a difference in the community then. So how does this all come together? You know, at the end of the day, why should you give your money to God? You know, it's yours, right? You earned it. Well, think about this. Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." So everything we have is already God's. All the income that we have has been given to us by His grace because He created it all. That's one thing we have to remember. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have this earth. We wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't have any of the systems we have or the way of earning money in general without the grace of God. And if tithing means tenth meaning 10%, if we give 10% of our income back to God like we're called to do, the promises that I've shown you in Proverbs shows that the 90% that you get to keep will be blessed by God. We pray to God for blessings in our lives all the time. But how often do we bring Him an offering to go with that request? Bring God an offering as a symbol of faithfulness and trust and see what God can do. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, hit the like button below. Be sure to subscribe. I'm Forrest Locklear. This is Believe Live TV. Have a good week.